too much more time, but I do want to just tell you that this is going to be a special night. Again, don't feel like you have to jump in right away, but don't feel like you don't either. We would love to have you participate. Rich, come on up here, man. Round of applause for Rich.
Thank you, guys. You guys ready? I'll take that as a yes. So, I'm not an atheist, but I sometimes play one at church. And I'll get into why. I mean, Arch talked a little bit about why we're doing this, but that will especially become prominent at the end, but I'll save that till then. But just a little bit of background about me. I am currently an English and philosophy teacher at a local public school in Plano. Been doing it for 15 years. Led Christian groups on campus for a long time now. And I was not raised, I wasn't an atheist exactly, but I wasn't a Christian either. I grew up what I call a nominal religious person. What sometimes sociologists call, they have a label for it, moral therapeutic deism. Is basically what I grew up with is, God exists, He wants you to be nice and gentle. You don't really need Him unless you're in a pinch, and then you pray for Him, and then He comes to your aid. He's kind of like a cosmic butler, and good people go to heaven when they die. That was pretty much what I was like as a young adult, and then later in my high school years, around senior year of high school, I came to Christ, and then in college I really got involved in it. So I just want you to know I wasn't raised an atheist. I don't have that as a background, but I've interacted with plenty of them. So who here has watched Family Matters? A 90s era sitcom. So Family Matters is all about the Winslow family, and the main character is a guy named Steve Urkel. And Steve Urkel was actually not a part of the Winslow family. He was the next door neighbor, and he was just a disaster waiting to happen. If you've seen the show, you know that he'll walk into the Winslow residence and like blow something up, or he's just really uncoordinated. He's a super duper nerd. And so the third or fourth season, he invents something called the transformation chamber. So he steps into his transformation chamber, and it zaps his DNA, and he comes out. He steps in a nerd, and he comes out, and he's this debonair, suave guy that all the ladies want to be with, and all the guys want to be like. He's no longer super nerd. He is Stefan Urkel. And he is literally transformed into somebody else. Well, tonight, I don't have a transformation chamber, but I do have my transformation glasses. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these on, and it's going to zap me, and I'm going to become an atheist, and we're going to dialogue a little bit. And what I want you to do is I want you to ask me some questions, and I want you to pose some challenges to me, and let's have a conversation back and forth. So let's see how you do. So I don't have any, fancy schmancy PowerPoint slides. I'm not like Afshin. Afshin is like the alliterative guru. He's got 3-point sermon, and all the bullet points start with the same letter. I'm not like that. We're just going to have a conversation, so no frills, and I think it'll be really fun, really informative, and really challenging for you. So that's why we're going to do this thing. Hopefully to challenge you and to motivate you to take the Christian life of mind seriously and the life of study seriously. Okay? So just a few more points before we start. If somebody walks in late, do you think we should let them in on the roof? Or do you think we should just kind of like leave them hanging? I think there's really an atheist here dialogue. What do you think we should do? I don't know. I'll leave it up to you guys. It could be kind of funny, but it might be a joke at their expense. I don't know. I'll let you decide whether you want to do that or not. Secondly, I'm not claiming to represent all atheists. Okay, so just like there's a lot of different Christian denominations, there's Lutherans, there's Catholics, there's evangelicals, there's non-denominational, all a bunch of differences. And they all fall under the same banner. There's a lot of different kinds of atheists. So there's nihilists, there's existentialists, there's secular humanists, there's atheists who don't give a rip, what they call apatheists. I'm not going to claim to represent all of them. In fact, the one that I transform into depends on a lot how the first couple minutes of our conversation goes. So it depends on what you guys throw at me. That'll be the kind of atheist that I become. So I just want to let you know that. And everybody taking notes? Because next week's training is going to be loosely based on what we talk about tonight. So if there's anything that you guys want to talk about, if anything kind of stumps you and you want more training on, that's going to be next week. So take notes if you can, kind of give me it so I can have a play-by-play at the end, so I know what to say next week. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, you guys ready? Okay. So when I turn around, I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to make a few introductory comments as the atheist, and then we'll let you guys jump into your questions. Okay? Thank you guys for having me. I am an atheist. My name is Rich Warner. I am a public school teacher. I've been a public school teacher for 15 years now. This is a little bit something different for me. I normally don't address religious groups, much less a young adult religious group. I usually talk to businesses. I usually talk to secular groups. So this is a little bit out of my comfort zone. I have to confess I'm a little intimidated. I kind of feel like I'm walking into the lion's den, so to speak. But I imagine that you're intimidated as well, a little bit, maybe a little nervous. So I just want to calm your nerves a little bit. Look, I am an atheist, but that doesn't mean that I don't have morality. That doesn't mean that I'm an immoral person. I don't bathe myself in blood and go around looking for crimes to commit. I'm not going to boost your iPhone, so don't worry about that. Okay? I'm just a normal guy like a lot of you. I put my pants on one leg at a time, as they say. I'm a guy that's been married. I have a wife and kids there in attendance tonight. So if I could give the boys, the guys, the men, a little bit of advice, like the goal in life is to marry up, right?
Oh yeah.
Right, that's our goal. So not just evolutionarily speaking, married up, fellas, but you know, there's a lot to say about just it really helps out if you do that. So I accomplished that in spades, and I say that just to kind of impress upon you that I'm a lot like a lot of you. I have the same goals, same aspirations, and I just, you know, I want to flourish just like you do. So we have a lot in common. But I do want to give you a little bit of my background. So I used to be a Christian, actually. Let me kind of character real quick here. This is based on a true story. It's based on one of my friends who actually shared the gospel with me and kind of led me to Christ. This is kind of his story. All right, back in here. I used to be a Christian. I was raised that way. I went to church every week. It was a church a lot like this. It was actually a Southern Baptist church. It's a Southern Baptist, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, okay. Church a lot like this. And my parents are still Christians, and I was a leader in my youth group. I was a leader in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes group in my high school, and I remember sharing the gospel with my fellow classmates and leading some of them to Christ. But then I went away to college. I was a biology major. Never mind how I got from a biology major to an English teacher. Just put that to the side for a second. But I was a bio major to start off with, and a lot of my professors and a lot of my fellow classmates and friends started posing challenges to me and asking me a lot of questions. And they were questions that I couldn't answer. And nobody had ever, you know, if a question came up when I was growing up, my parents and my pastors just said, just have faith. And so it kind of got to a tipping point where it didn't make sense to me anymore. And I just couldn't deal with the amount of questions and unresolved challenges and the contradictions that I was starting to find out in my own worldview. And so I walked away. I followed the evidence where it led. And it led to the truth. And I ditched faith. And at the time, it was kind of traumatic. You know, I wanted with every bone in my body for this whole God thing to be true. But I just couldn't countenance the evidence that I was finding out. And so, like I said, I had to ditch faith and walk away. And today, you know, I'm a lot happier. Kind of looking back at it in hindsight, I'm no longer shackled by dogma. I'm free to live as who I am. I am no longer beholden to what I think is kind of a celestial dictator. I know that might be offensive to you guys, but I don't mean it in an offensive way. And I'm living a lot more free and I'm a lot more happy today. So I did grow up in a Christian background. So tonight I got two more further comments before I get into things. In your questions and your challenges, all that I ask is that you're open to following the evidence where it leads. Because look, according to your book, faith, by definition, is just belief without evidence. Okay. Your own book says we walk by faith, not by sight. Does anybody know where that is? 2 Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians or 1 Corinthians? It was something Paul said. Anyway, later on, another one of his letters, or actually, he probably didn't write this. We don't know if it was Paul or not, but he wrote that faith is the evidence of things unseen. It's the assurance, in some other translations, the assurance of things unseen. So there you have it. Walk by faith, not by sight. Faith and evidence are kind of like oil and water. They don't really mix. So I just want you to, don't give me faith tonight. I'm not interested in that. Give me, if you have it, evidence, reason, logic. And if you don't, that's okay. Just be open to following that. Be open to listening. All right? And the last comment that I have before I let you guys jump in is I need to clarify what it means to be an atheist, because I think a lot of people misunderstand, especially Christians, misunderstand what an atheist is. They say, Gordon, an atheist is somebody that doesn't believe in God, that rejects the existence of God, and thinks that there is no God in the world. And you've got to provide evidence for that. You have to give me proof that God doesn't exist. I say, wait. That's neither reasonable nor unfair, because that's not what atheism is. Atheism is not the belief that God doesn't exist. Atheism is simply a lack of belief in God. That's it. Now you might say, I don't see the difference. It seems like you're splitting hairs. And there actually is a big difference. There's a meaningful difference between the two. And here it is. It helps us understand where the burden of proof lies. You guys know what I mean by the burden of proof? The burden of proof is on the person that makes the claim. Okay, so the burden of proof will be on you guys, because you guys claim that God exists. So you guys have to convince me. Atheism is just the default position. It takes no direction one way or the other. So let me put it this way. Raise your hand if you actually believe in the tooth fairy. Okay, good. Now, what if I were to say, you need to prove that the tooth fairy doesn't exist? You would kind of laugh at me, right? And rightfully so, because you understand, look, we've closed the book on that. We have no evidence. We've looked around. There's no tooth fairy. Maybe some kids think it's The Rock because the movies you watch with the tooth fairy. But, by and large, you don't need to provide evidence for that. Right? You don't need to provide evidence for the non-existence of Thor or Zeus or Ra. We've been there, done that. We've seen no evidence. Case closed. So it's the same thing here. You guys are actually atheists with 99.9% of the gods out there. You lack belief in Thor, Zeus, Ra, Krishna, blah, 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 blah. I just go one God further. I just add Yahweh to the mix. And when you guys understand why you reject the existence of Thor, or all those folks, all those other deities, when you understand why you reject them, then you're on your way. You will understand why I reject the God of the Bible. It's because, I just have no evidence. And so until you can give me convincing evidence, I am completely justified in maintaining my atheism, and I don't need to prove that God doesn't exist. I can. I have those arguments, but I just don't need them. Okay, so that's what atheism is. Now, with that, let's go ahead and dive right in. You can ask your questions, pose your challenges, and I will do my best to answer. So, who wants to be the brave person to go first and break the ice? Go ahead.
Okay, so, what made you be an atheist? What's your goal?
I just followed the evidence wherever it went. Like I said, in my background, when I got to college, I started hearing challenges that I had never thought of before, and I tried to reconcile them with my faith, and I just didn't, so I just became convinced that there's no evidence for God. So it was mostly an intellectual thing. Are you kind of asking like a personal journey, like did I have a passion, was I unfaithful or something like that in my background? Is that where you're getting at?
Not much.
Okay. Do you have a follow-up?
Well, I've been following up on this. You was once an atheist.
Yeah. Well, can you tell me one of the things that convinced him, and maybe we can look at that argument and dive in?